Good morning and welcome to All Souls on this fairly warm day for January. I am not Don Dickey. I know the resemblance is startling. I am Ruth Robarge, member of the congregation. I'm going to be the moderator this morning. So do indeed welcome, and special welcome to all those very stalwart members who were at the chili cook-off last night and still made it to church this morning. Didn't we have a great time? I want to also extend a special welcome to all those people joining us online through streaming, or will be watching the video later. You are also welcomed and a part of our group. If you are a visitor, or if you have brought a visitor, we would love to hear from you. So if you will be so kind or feel so moved, any visitors in the house like to stand and introduce themselves or have themselves introduced? I think it's all family today.
I would like to welcome our guest pianist today, Daniel Doss. He's been here
Well, he's hardly a guest. Welcome indeed. I don't even think of you as a guest anymore. We are ready for our service. Please be sure to silence your cell phones. Get yourself situated there. Silence your cell phones and quiet your minds, and have a great service. And I forgot one thing. Before you turn off your brain completely, don't turn off your brain. They're so hard to restart. But we are having a brunch after service, immediately following down in Conover. Since you're all family, you know where that is. And it's free. And there's a chance that you might get some French toast casserole and some hash brown and sausage casserole. And then you also have a chance to learn a few things. So please join us for that. Thank you. Good morning.
Again, good morning and welcome. Welcome to this hour of reflection here in the Covenant community of memory and promise. Today we cast our minds back over the centuries to recall the wisdom of our spiritual ancestors, the Greek and Roman philosophers in the days before Christianity. They too struggled with political crises and the demands of empire. They too sought to understand the world of their experience, the interactions of matter and energy. They too wondered what makes for a good life and how ought we to live together. Some of them saw our human origins not from the gods, but from the stars. Some of them gave voice to a poetry of the natural rather than a supernatural faith. Some of them were moved by the same wonder as my late colleague, Robert Terry Weston, who said this: "Out of the stars, out of the dust of eternity, out of the stars in their flight, here have we come. Stardust and sunlight, mingling through time and through space. Out of the stars have we come, up from time, out of the stars. Time out of time, before time, in the vastness of space. Earth spun to orbit the sun. Earth with the thunder of mountains newborn, the boiling of seas. Earth warmed by sun, lit by sunlight. This is our home. Out of the stars have we come. Mystery, hidden in mystery back through all time. Mystery rising from rocks in the storm and the sea, out of the stars rising from rocks and the seas, kindled by sunlight on earth, arose life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Ponder with awe. Out of the sea to the land, out of the shallows came ferns. Out of the sea to the land, up from darkness to light, rising to walk and to fly. Out of the sea trembled life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Life up from the sea, eyes to behold, throats to sing, mates to love. Life from the sea, warmed by sun, washed by rain. Life from within, giving birth, arose to love. This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth. Life upon earth rose to love. This is the marvel of humankind rising to see and to know. Out of your heart, cry wonder and sing that we live. In the name of that holy creativity that still burns in the stars and in the minds and hearts of human beings everywhere, we kindle this chalice, symbol of our free faith. May it illuminate our gathering here, so that we carry forward the light bequeathed to us by those who came before, and together build a world worthy of humanity's best aspirations, for those into whose hands we shall entrust this place and our work when we in turn are no more.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Sierra, and I light this chalice for the inherent worth and dignity of every person.
Thank you. Good job. Now I invite you to rise as you are able and willing and speak once again the words of our covenant promise to one another. Together we affirm goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And I invite you to remain standing for one of our classic hymns. Here, in this covenant community of memory and promise, we come together to cherish one another's hopes and intentions, to hold what is seeking to grow in our hearts and spirits that might make us better people and our world a better place. Intentions gain strength and reality when you speak them or write them down. Hopes become plans when we share them. Throughout the holiday season, we have invited those in our community to record their hopes and intentions for the new year beginning. Our aspirations have ranged from very personal hopes for love, family, and friendship, to very universal wishes for peace, understanding, and justice in the world. Today we offer you these stars again and invite you to take to heart an intention that someone else has expressed for the coming year. Receive a star from the dish, take it home with you, and hold its message in your awareness throughout the year. If your spiritual practice includes meditation or prayer, give this intention a place in that practice. You may not entirely understand what it means to the person who wrote it, but consider what it might mean to you. And if you wrote a star, know that all through 2019, someone, perhaps a friend, perhaps a stranger, you will not know, will be carrying your wish in their heart, adding their hope and love to yours, remembering for you, even if you forget, your good intention for a better self and a better world. So I'm going to invite the stars to be passed, and while you are waiting for your star, I invite you to turn and greet your neighbor and tell them your favorite thing about cold weather. Bill? If you have a child who wants a star, you can always take one for them. But now, while the stars continue to move, we will excuse our children to their classes with song.
Good morning. I'm Leanne Bergen. I'm a member of this congregation. I want to thank everyone for being here as a part of Kansas City area's beacon of liberal religion. We need to be proud of that and keep spreading the word. We have a lot of things to be thankful for here. We have so many good people and so many good activities, and you can find some place where your heart really can connect. So I ask you to give generously to our offering this morning. Thank you very much.
And sings to the universe, we are. For each child is born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe, we are. For each child is born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe, we are. We are. And we are grandfather's dreams. We are grandfather ancestors. We are the spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are fathers of trust and sons of great visions. Of mercy and we are lovers of life, rulers of nations, pursuers of truth, and givers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are grandfather's first, and we are grandfather's dreams. We are sisters, we are the spirit of God. We shall restore the morning star rises and sings to the universe. We are. We shall restore the morning star rises and sings to the universe. We are. We shall restore the morning star rises and sings to the universe. We are.
Will you join me in the words of dedication for our offering? We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
From The Return of Paganism by Ross Douthat. There is a tradition of intellectual and aesthetic pantheism that includes figures like Spinoza, Nietzsche, Emerson, and Whitman. And that's manifest in certain highbrow spiritual but not religious writers today. We even have an explicit framing of this tradition as paganism in the former Yale Law School Dean Anthony Kronman's rich 2016 work, Confessions of a Born-Again Pagan. There is also a civic religion that, like the civic paganism of old, makes religious and political duties identical and treats the city of man as the city of God, or the gods, the place where we make heaven ourselves, instead of waiting for the next life or the apocalypse. This imminent civic religion, it can be argued, is gradually replacing the more biblical form of civil religion that stamped American history in previous centuries. Whether in the social justice theology of contemporary progressive politics or the transhumanist projects of Silicon Valley, we are watching attempts to revive a religion of this world, a new model paganism to reclaim the city that Christianity wrested away from it centuries ago.
So the question arises, is the combination of intellectual pantheism and this world-focused civil religion enough to declare the rebirth of paganism as a faith unto itself, rather than just a cultural tendency within a still Christian order? It seems to me that the answer is not quite, because this new religion would lack a clear cultic aspect, a set of popular devotions, a practice of ritual and prayer of the kind that the paganism of antiquity offered in abundance. And that absence points to the essential weakness of a purely intellectualized pantheism. It invites its adherents to commune with a universe that offers suffering and misery in abundance, which means that it has a strong appeal to the privileged, but a much weaker appeal to people who need not only a sense of wonder, but their spiritual lives, but also, well, help. To get a fully revived paganism in contemporary America, this is what would have to happen. The philosophers of pantheism and civil religion would need to build a religious bridge to the New Agers and the neo-pagans, and together they would need to create a more fully realized cult of the eminent divine, an actual way to worship, not just to appreciate the pantheistic order they discern.
was raised in a Unitarian Universalist church to be a theological pagan in a Puritan Protestant liturgy. May I just say at the outset, this is not always a comfortable fit. This year's auction sermon assignment from Butch Murphy has recalled me to our roots in the origins of the Western intellectual tradition, specifically the philosophy of ancient Greece and the literature of classic Rome. In much the same way that most Unitarian Universalists, if you scratch the surface, are humanists of one variety or another, so we are largely also at some level Epicureans, often without really knowing what that means. Stephen Greenblatt, author of the 2012 Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Swerve, How the World Became Modern, sets out to raise our awareness of what the culture of our present time owes to its pagan forebears. This is a history that we Unitarian Universalists and religious liberals in general would be well advised to pay attention to, lest we espouse these ideas as if we ourselves just came up with them, or as if they did not carry with them any ancient baggage. We didn't, and they do. As our reading from Ross Douthat earlier suggested, these pagan ideas are of more than intellectual interest at this cultural moment. The long-standing, comfortable, low-key Christian majority of American society may be at a significant inflection point just now. Diverse religious traditions, not just the sibling Abrahamic faiths like Judaism and Islam, but even more unfamiliar traditions like Buddhism and Hinduism are growing in popularity in our nation, both by immigration and by adoption. Roman Catholic Christianity is facing severe challenges, not only from sexual abuse scandals in the clergy, but from resistance among independent-minded American adherents who are not comfortable with the church's long heritage of sexism, homophobia, and reproductive control. Fundamentalist Protestant megachurches have notorious difficulty with succession once the career of a charismatic founder ends. The pews of mainline and progressive Protestant congregations are aging and emptying. The no religious affiliation is the fastest growing category in all surveys, as many as 36% among millennials and 23% overall. While not all of the nuns are atheists, not all of the religiously affiliated are theists either, leading to an estimate that close to 1/4 of Americans do not believe in a conventional idea of God, regardless of their reported church membership or attendance. The question of whether pagan ideas about nature, morality, and the meaning of a good life might find renewed relevance in our time is not just intriguing, it is urgent. In The Swerve, Greenblatt traces the adventure by which Pogo Bracciolini, a Renaissance scholar and notary in the papal court, rediscovered a copy of a long Latin poem entitled De Rerum Natura, on the nature of things, or perhaps more colloquially, how things are. This 6-volume work, composed about 60 years before the birth of Jesus, was intended to lay out the basic ideas of the Greek philosopher Epicurus as guidance and reassurance for Roman politicians of the poet's day. You might think of it as a science-based version of how to win friends and influence people. Or perhaps an early humanist take on the purpose-driven life. There are some textual infelicities, repetitions, and gaps, as well as a strangely abrupt conclusion, which suggests that the poet Lucretius may have died before his work was fully edited for publication. Nevertheless, it was meant to be a highbrow self-help book, advising tribunes, judges, governors, and senators to dismiss any fear of the gods, either in this life or after death, and to seek the rational pleasures of this world as the highest good. Today, an Epicurean is most commonly thought of as someone who is both eager and picky about food. And it is true that a banquet shared among friends is one of this philosophy's images of the greatest pleasures in life. The Epicureans delighted in food and drink, in sex, of which more in a moment, in the beauties of art and of nature, in intellectual satisfactions, and in human friendship. However, they were not extravagant hedonists, merely seeking a succession of agreeable sensations. Rather, their ultimate goal was a peace of mind, which the Greeks called Ataraxia, that is sometimes translated as serenity. Epicurus taught that this state, in which the mind was free from worry or distress, was necessary for the absence of pain, which is the essential condition for pleasure. That is why there can be no true or lasting pleasure in excesses, because they always lead to pain, like a hangover the next day, or else to worry, like not having enough money or the memory of having behaved badly. But once you realize that there is no reason to fear the gods and learn to regulate your actions so that they do not create painful situations in the future, then you can live in serenity and enjoy the goodness of life without anxiety. From this position, Lucretius counseled his Roman audience, it is possible to exercise political power without creating injustice or sacrificing your own well-being. Epicurus was not so much interested in talking people out of believing in the gods. He just thought that gods were nothing to be afraid of. If they exist at all, he reasoned, if they exist at all, they have far more interesting and pleasant matters to think about than us annoying humans with all our dramas and complaints. The gods are absorbed in the contemplation of divine things, he told his followers. They have no concern at all about us, either to reward or punish us, so there is no need to fear them or to try to placate or please them. Whether or not they do exist, it is rational for us to behave as if they do not. Their assurance is not necessary. Their assistance is not necessary in order to construct a pleasurable, satisfying life, or to understand the origins and nature of the universe. If you don't hold to the proposition that all things have been created by the gods for the purpose of setting a stage for human action, then you might end up being curious about how it and we all got here in the first place. And this is where the ancient Greeks bust out both the theory of atoms and the theory of evolution, well before our modern Enlightenment scientific method. The universe, says Lucretius, following Epicurus, is made up of tiny, eternally existing particles. After all, if we can simply postulate God as an eternally present reality, why can't we just suppose that the basic building blocks, the seeds or atoms, as Democritus calls them, have always been? Just eliminate the intervening step of imagining the gods in order to create them. These atoms, these infinitesimal elements, are falling through the void of infinite space. And that is all that really exists. Tiny particles and the void. Epicurus, of course, did not understand the realities of gravitational laws as we do now. He imagined those basic seeds all in the act of falling through space that has no bottom. They were already in motion, and just like Newtonian billiard balls, they would remain in that uniform motion until acted on by some other force. It was only by their random collisions that they connected to form larger bodies, and ultimately the matter that we know in the world. That is where the idea of swerve becomes significant. The non-theistic Greek philosophers recognized three basic causes of things: necessity, chance, and human choice. Necessity was seen in the laws of what we think of as Newton's physics, of action and reaction, where observable cause produces predictable result. Human agency arises in cases where people exercise their will based on whither pleasure leads us, or just where our mind takes us, as Lucretius says in his poem. It is important to assert human will because, according to Epicurus, necessity destroys responsibility, and chance is uncertain, whereas our own actions are autonomous, and it is to them that praise and blame naturally attach. There can be no moral accountability if our actions are determined by an inevitable chain of causation. This is the long-vexed problem of free will, which Epicurus was one of the first philosophers to articulate. But Lucretius also needs chance, for it is only if those eternally falling, infinitely small particles occasionally collide and sometimes connect with each other that matter or life can come to exist. Modern physics teaches that all atomic motion is random, and it is only by statistical average that relatively large objects behave predictably. Neither Lucretius nor his master Epicurus thought of it that way. For them, it was that tiny swerve, that smallest of incidental chance motions, that set the whole universe into unfolding as matter began to gather together and experience impact from other matter. There were any number of basic principles of today's science that Epicurus and his followers did not understand. What is important about their speculations is that they constructed a reasonable account of the origin and functions of the universe that did not depend on any form of intelligent design by the gods, who may or may not exist, but have no interest in our world or our problems. Epicurus was convinced, and Lucretius agreed, that the conflicts and anxieties that prevented human beings from treating each other with compassion and reason had to do with our fear of the gods. Once that was laid to rest, then we could undertake the project of learning to live together in happiness and security. They observed that in nature, all creatures, including humans, seek to satisfy their needs and to avoid pain. This becomes the framework of understanding what constitutes a good life, one that is free of pain and full of satisfactions. Both pain and satisfactions can be either physical or mental. Hunger, for instance, is a physical pain, and eating to satisfy it is a physical pleasure. Fear is a mental pain, and knowledge is a mental satisfaction. The mental qualities are more enduring because we both remember and anticipate in our minds, while immediate physical sensations are quickly replaced in succeeding moments. The best kind of life, then, is one in which our physical needs are satisfied so that they do not cause us suffering, and our minds are without distress, enjoying what they called Ataraxia, and we translate as serenity. In order to achieve the kind of serenity which allows for the enjoyment of pleasures, it is necessary for the individual to be able to control desire, because desire is a kind of distress or pain. Wanting food is a reasonable need. Craving elaborate dishes or elegant food is a desire which causes us unnecessary suffering if we don't get it. Aspiring to great wealth or power is also a distress which prevents the experience of serenity. Epicurus believed it was important to live in a society where people agreed not to harm each other, so that they could pursue serene pleasure without worrying about being taken advantage of by their neighbors. His collective morality was based on a very early version of a social contract, that we enter into a government by everyone constraining their own behavior so that we do not injure anyone else. It is also possible that to be in the presence of suffering is to suffer, either from sympathy or else from revulsion, so that it is in our own interest not to cause pain. The mutuality of friendship among equals was a high value for the Epicureans, as long as friends are not manipulating each other in an exploitive way. The best human relationship they envisioned was between two happy and self-sufficient people who could enjoy their companionship freely without becoming either dependent or controlling. The pursuit of serenity and the enjoyment of friendship were compatible and mutually reinforcing. Sexuality was a different matter. The casual sexual act was a source of pleasure, as long as it caused no pain or harm to anyone. However, enduring passionate love can never be really satisfied with any single sexual encounter. The true lovers want to melt into each other and become one, which cannot actually happen. So they are left still longing for each other, anxious for their next meeting, and prey to jealousy and fear of loss, all of which are fatal to the serene freedom from discomfort that is the Epicureans' highest good. Romantic, courtly love they saw as a trap, which could never end well and should be avoided by the right-minded. There is a great deal about the Epicurean philosophy that is reasonable as well as appealing. It offers the natural world as beautiful and comprehensible, a network in which human consciousness is both a product and a participant. There is no reason to waste pleasure or embrace pain. This neither benefits people nor pleases the gods. Instead, each of us should seek the wisdom to modulate both our behavior and our desires. Once you achieve that ability, you are no longer at the mercy of chance events or other people's choices or your own cravings. Instead, you can act out of the self-possessed serenity that absorbs the least possible pain and enjoys the maximum possible pleasure. And you will be able to judge fairly, to govern in the public interest, without sacrificing your personal well-being in the process. Ancient Rome was a place of political intrigue and self-seeking hidden agendas, of madmen and power brokers offering deals and threats, of shifting alliances and insatiable egos, not altogether unlike our own day. Lucretius offered an alternative vision, the ability to enjoy what we already have in a conscious way, not driven to consume and accumulate power beyond all rational necessity. It is a pleasant faith, joyful and grateful, humble and reflective, unfazed by mortality or the wrath of divine beings. It offers no afterlife, only a heaven in this world, the gathering of happy friends among the beauties of nature for intelligent conversation accompanied by agreeable food and drink. Nothing in excess, no occasion for regrets or anything that brings harm to others. In a culture like ours, hypnotized by demands for better, faster, richer, stronger, sexier, more glamorous, more powerful, more everything, it is a welcome breath of calm. The question is, and this is what Ross Douthat challenges us to consider today, how do you affirm and celebrate such an unassuming, positive set of beliefs? Lucretius did it with exquisite Latin poetry. It could be argued that a truly compelling translation of his work into beautiful English has yet to be achieved. Epicurus never made a case against uplifting religious ritual or community celebration, only against fearing the wrath of the gods or trying to placate them. Again and again in the intervening centuries, humanism has been accused of joylessness and of elitism. As Douthat puts it, because it invites its adherents to commune with a universe that offers suffering and misery in abundance, intellectual paganism has a strong appeal to the privileged, but a much weaker appeal to people who need not only a sense of wonder from their spiritual lives, but also, well, help, which in moments of loss or deep disappointment is all of us. I believe that this project is at least a part of what we are about in the liberal religious tradition. To affirm just such a sensible, natural, grateful, unafraid view of the way things are. And then to build the reasoned community of mutuality and compassion that it presupposes as necessary to the good life for us all. Nothing supernatural or superstitious about it. After 2,000 years, this might be the moment again. The two challenges that the Epicureans faced then continue to confront us today. First, is it only the privileged who can afford a rational faith? And second, now that the lovely Latin of Lucretius no longer speaks to us, can we make it sing? Will you join me in trying?
All
extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For all these we carry in our minds and hearts until we are together again. And so in the name of that holy creativity, which still burns in the stars and in the minds and hearts of human beings everywhere, let us carry forward the light bequeathed to us by those who came before, and together build a world worthy of humanity's best aspirations, for those into whose hands we shall entrust this place and our work when we, in turn, are no more. Go in peace.